There we go. So, welcome. And I am Ava Goulette, founder of Dancing Jaguar Spirit Camp. And Raise Your Vibration came about as I was struggling myself to find ways to really practice some radical self care around all of the chaos and the confusion that we're living in every day. And I realized for me, I have a lot of tools that I use to help myself go from a place where I may be feeling a lot of fear and anxiety to a place where I can access joy and feelings of love and compassion, which vibrate at a higher frequency than fear and anger and frustration and anxiety. So for me, I thought maybe this could be a nice way for me to bring people in the Dancing Jaguar community together and we can all talk about ways that we can support ourselves with some radical self care and learn how we can raise our vibrations from fear to fabulous whenever we go down those rabbit holes of social media posts or watching the news,
Mm.
listening to podcasts. Part of my self care is if I'm going to spend X amount of time going down that rabbit hole, then I need to spend an equal amount of time working to raise my vibration back up into that fabulous range. So that is what started the Raise Your Vibration calls. And each month I invite a fabulous co host to come join me and share some of their wisdom and their techniques that they use to really help people just shine in their brilliance. And I'm so excited this month to have Chelsea Short here with me, with us on this call. Let me tell you a little bit about Chelsea. Chelsea is a licensed clinical social worker, intuitive counselor, advanced integrated energy therapist, and tarot practitioner. Chelsea's work is rooted in deep presence, compassion, and energetic alignment. She helps people move from overwhelm and fragmentation into clarity, connection, and embodied self love. As the founder of Tuning In, her approach supports tuning into all parts of the self, light and shadow, so clients can meet themselves with radical acceptance and begin living from a place of inner truth. She guides through deep understanding, resonance, and meaningful connection. She holds space for your process while gently inviting you into your own knowing. At the heart of her work is a belief personal freedom begins when we stop abandoning ourselves and start honoring every layer of who we are. So,
Yeah.
with that, let me please welcome Chelsea Short
Thank
to our call. Hello there, Chelsea.
Hi. Thank you so much, Ava. I am so excited to be here and talk about some of the work that I do and just to be in connection with you and to share. This is just really meaningful and wonderful. So thank you. I'm so honored. Um, so yeah, I'm really talking about exactly tuning in my business, right? My bread and butter. And what does it mean to tune in and how do we tune into ourselves? And so, before I get into all of that, I want to share a little bit about what it feels like or what it means to be disconnected from the self. Just to give a little bit of understanding of what that. And you may find that it's pretty familiar to language that we already have in our culture. So often what we experience when we're disconnected from our own internal knowing is a sense of fear, emotional disconnect. We can experience people pleasing. Often these words are ways that we know we're not grounded with ourselves, right? So people pleasing, what a perfect way to understand not taking care of self. I'm more concerned with taking care of other. And this this fragmentation can really show up in the body somatically, and then it can work into our spirit. And we can start to receive messages from our fragmented parts that are judging our disconnect and saying things like, I feel guilty. I feel so bad. Or why am I so lazy? Or what's wrong with me? We sort of have these negative messages that come from the trajectory of not tuning into ourselves, not listening to our somatic messages. And so, a really great example of this, and you might find this to be relatable or not, but there are times when maybe you get a phone call and you immediately pick it up and you don't spend time asking yourself, did I want to pick that phone call up? Am I in a space where I want to be on the phone right now? But you do, you just automatically pick it up and you're talking to a friend, a loved one, whatever it may be. And you can feel you want to get off the phone. Maybe you have to go cook dinner. Maybe you just want to go relax. Maybe you've spent your energy for the day and you're done, but you feel bad. This person, you love them. You want to talk to them. You're tuning into their needs rather than the messages in your body. So you're staying on the phone, you're pushing it, and you can feel the pressure. For me, my body tends to show up the pressure in my chest and in my stomach. That can be pretty common for different people. Other ways you can feel it in your spine, you can feel irritation in your arms and your legs. This is the body's beautiful map and communicator for exactly what we're talking about, not tuning in, not listening to the messages, not aligning with what it is I really want to be doing in this moment. We in our culture are taught to listen to our minds rather than listening to our bodies. Often we have such a noisy, busy mind going up in there, talking to us, telling us what to do, and that can really pull us away from the messages of the body. As Ava already talked about, that yummy, delicious state, that higher vibrational space, well, it's also the ventral space. It's no different, right? So, ventral in the nervous system, you have your sympathetic reactivity, you have your dorsal, and then you have ventral. Ventral is when you feel in alignment, when you feel good and enjoy and you're aligned with yourself. And the nervous system is a perfect machine that is just here to communicate with us, to navigate our world, to support us in attunement. As I said, when we move away from attuning to ourselves, we can receive a lot of negative messaging. We can hear these thoughts come in that judge the misalignments.
Mm.
But then when we spend a long time in misalignment and we're not working towards attunement, some of those messages become part of our identity. And we really attach to them for long periods of time. We can go so long, especially, if you look at our culture, there's been a long time that we've been taught to do what you need to do. You have to. You've got to do the 9 to 5. You've got to do this. This is what society wants from us. We have to live in this box. Things are expanding and opening up. Again, love that. So necessary. But we can be so used to this framework of not attuning into ourselves and into this idea that we have to. And there are realistic things in our world that are very much feel like have tos, bills that need to get paid, responsibilities that we have committed ourselves to. There's never a time where those responsibilities need to take the attunement away. In reality, we can honor both. We can move towards honoring these important responsibilities of our daily life while still working to tune inward to ourselves. We all have a center self, a deep inner knowing. It is really our mind versus the body's wisdom, the emotional authority. I don't want to put you on the spot a little bit, Ava, but you shared a beautiful moment earlier before we started this call where you talked about attunement. You talked about what it felt like to honor a decision. And
Mhm.
I'm curious if you're wanting and willing to share when you moved forward with that, when you decided to end that relation or that dynamic, what you noticed inside of your body, if you happen to feel that alignment.
Yes. In fact, there was a sense of dread that I was carrying in my body prior to making that decision, knowing I needed to let go of something because it wasn't bringing me joy. I wasn't feeling joy when I would think about it and when I would ponder showing up for it again in the future. So I made the decision to discontinue my connection to that. And I immediately felt lighter. I felt more joyful and I felt less resistance. And
Mm.
it just felt like I was taking a deep sigh of relief, knowing that I had made the right decision for me.
Yes, exactly. And that is exactly what I'm describing here, right? That
Mm.
when we move away from the fear of judgment of others or the internal expectations, well, I should, I've committed, I said I would, whatever those sentences are, there's so many of them that I can't even, we take up the whole hour with all the different things that these self limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves to stay stuck at times. Again, it's often in relationship with other. It's often because we don't want to disappoint. We don't want to hurt. We don't want to make people upset. We don't want to be rejected. We want to have connection. We want to be seen in a certain way. We want to be perceived with light and love. And sometimes we believe that our truth will risk those connections, will risk those expectations of us, those perceptions of us. And that will further the misalignment with ourselves, that fear. But when we really honor it, it's sweetness that we feel within our body. We feel flow as well. It just becomes easier and more natural.
I was just going to say easier, but can I tell you what came up for me when I
Mm.
was trying to make that decision? Because I'd love to hear how you would handle this. What came up for me is I'm going to be a quitter if I do this. And I think of children playing sports and their parents telling them, I'm not raising a quitter. They can't quit. They've made a commitment. They have to see it through. So I
Mm.
was really wrestling with that. And I just wonder, how do you hold space for that? Or how do you, what would your advice be around social conditioning like that?
Right? I mean, it just immediately makes me think of that sentence, well, you've made your bed, now lie in it, right? We have
Yeah.
so much social conditioning. And there are multiple ways to hold space for that. One that I'll talk about is attunement to the part of you that's saying those messages, the part of you that is, has learned that this is what gets it love. This is what gets this part respect, connection. I don't know what exactly that part was getting from attaching to that, but it makes sense that it's like, well, this will keep us safe. This idea over here. Don't be a quitter. You've made your bed, now lie in it. You've committed to this.
Mhm.
Right? And it is sitting with that part and exploring what it believes will happen. So, will people believe I'm a quitter? Will people talk negatively about me? Will there be less opportunities? Is this part afraid of disconnection? Or is this part coming through with, well, this is what we're supposed to do? Is this a little bit younger of a part that is saying, no, there are have tos, these are the rules? And is it just sitting with that part to explore its feelings? What would it be doing if it wasn't burdened with the rules? Right?
Okay, thanks. Mm.
Yeah, and inviting compassion. One of the most important things that we can do with our self attunement when we're doing it mentally, because there's four different ways to attune to yourself. You can explore your body, you can work with a body scan, just thinking down from your head all the way to your feet, asking questions like, what is needing my attention right now? So that's your somatic check in. Then there's the emotional check in. What am I feeling right now? What do I notice? What are the emotions coming through? And I'm not talking about the mental the words that really come, but what you feel. We have feelings that will touch somatic places, and we can work to acknowledge that. Sometimes we're taught in our culture to ignore our feelings. So I find with all the people that I work with, excuse my dogs in the background, all the people that I work with, actually tuning into feelings tends to be the hardest one. I find that tuning into the body can be 50-50. Sometimes really easy for people who have deep connection to their body, and then sometimes people have been taught, "I can't feel my body. That's too dangerous or that's too uncomfortable." And there's can be history attached to your somatic your body.
Mhm.
And the other two ways is the mental attunement, which is what you and I just talked a little bit about, which is going into your thoughts and what am I thinking right now? What do I notice? How many minds? We have multiple minds as humans. We'll have a mind thinking about what we have to do next week, mind thinking about dinner, the one that's focused here, the one that's thinking about when I was 5 years old. We can have multiple minds showing up. Sometimes we're not listening to any of them and we don't notice all of those different parts of ourselves. And then sometimes it can be quite noisy for some of us, and it's a spectrum. And so for that one, it is what am I noticing, right? What do I notice in my mind? And it just exploring what shows up, what certain parts come through. And the fourth one is the spiritual or the meaning. What do I think about myself? And that sounds like it's mental, but the words will be more of like, I'm not really a good person, or "Oh, I just feel really bad all the time. Or I feel really bad for that." Or "I'm really lazy," or "I don't have a lot of motivation," or "I'm alone. I feel like I don't have anybody." Those are more the spirit of ourselves and how we're defining ourselves. Um, and attuning to that is to still work with some of those mental messages that are coming through and to
Mhm.
just explore what is coming through spiritually about ourselves. So those are just ways to tune in. Not that we have an agenda when we're attuning to ourselves. The agenda is noticing, the agenda is compassion, the agenda is care and curiosity. I'm not going to, "Oh my gosh, my belly hurts, I'm sick." And now I've almost attached to the somatic check-in. Or the
Mhm.
emotion, "Oh, I'm sad, I feel sadness. Oh, why am I so sad?" Mm-mm. Or the mental, "Oh my god, I have so many thoughts. I'm crazy." Right? We can get too close to some of the attunement and go on a train ride with it. What I'm talking about is working awareness, noticing, mindfulness, just practicing. I'm just going to go through a scan of my body. I don't have to do anything, just working down my body to notice, oh, my back is really tight. My feet are tired. Okay. Well, I was just invited to go do X, Y, and Z. Maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe my body is communicating something with me, right? So, yeah, tuning in as a daily practice. You can start one of the best things to do is to bring this in the morning and at night. So, we're waking up, we're with ourselves, and to just start practicing self-attunement physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And then at the end of the night. So we're always waking up with ourselves and we're always going to sleep with ourselves. We're always working that connection upon waking up and upon going to sleep. Compassion and curiosity can be one of the two most profound attunement tools. Because so there's a lot of other attunement tools, but when you think of the embodiment of curiosity. It feels playful, right? It gives an energy around curiosity that almost makes it a little less threatening, rather than, well, I need to find out these things about myself. But if I can just be curious, I'm just curious, what's going on here? And working compassion. Compassion can be tough for some people. And so I invite you to start, if you've not practiced self compassion, bringing a person or an animal or something that just you feel a lot of love towards, and just working that energy that you are really, it's very easy to experience it for that external being or thing, right? And then working to turn that towards yourself. It may not be simple, it may not be a first time practice, it may be something that you do and you're like, I don't feel anything with this, I just need to stop. That's okay. This is not about being perfect. None of what I'm talking about is, okay, you've got it, now go and do it. No, this is a practice. It's sometimes going to be messy and you'll fail, or right? It's really just about working the support towards ourself without the pressure, moving away from the pressure and just working that love. Oh, an example, I took some notes. An example that I love to think of when attuning to myself is like when, if anybody plays an instrument, when you're tuning a guitar, you are literally using your hands, you're using your ears, you're listening in. You might strum the guitar strings. You feel it, you're looking at it, right? So that's the same thing that I'm talking about with ourselves. We're listening in, we're looking at ourselves, we're feeling ourselves. Same thing as an instrument. Self acceptance is not passive. The thing that can be a little bit frustrating with, and beautiful and frustrating with social media, is we have a lot of hot button words out there. Self care is one of them. It's talked about so much that it's becoming a little bit saturated in people really understanding what it means and not recognizing that it is a practice. It is not a hot button word, but a true active practice that works to liberate us from self abandonment. The shadow is your pathway. And I know that sounds funny because I do recognize that there are a lot of different teachers out there will talk about getting rid of your shadow or not working with the shadow, or you really need to explore your shadow to get rid of it. Well, in my framework and understanding, the shadow is such an important part of your being. It is often the place where you have unmet needs. It can be a space where there's deep and internal wisdom to explore. This can also be, in the framework that I study, internal family systems, exiled parts of yourself, these little parts that you've pushed away that need liberation, that need to come back out into the light and be supported. And that is a whole another modality we won't get too far into. But truly, the shadow, it holds fear, it can hold shame, it can hold what we culturally might label as negative emotions. And sometimes we don't allow space for negative feelings and we can get a little uncomfortable as with other people. Like, why are you mad? What is going on? We almost want everybody to be in joy and happy, and that sounds wonderful and nice. And yet, anger, shame, these feelings that we do experience are part of the human experience. They're part of being alive. They're also our messengers. They share when we're not, like I talked about in the beginning, when we're not in alignment, when we're experiencing pretty negative emotions. These can be beautiful guides towards okay, I need to do a body scan. I'm just feeling really angry. I feel really ashamed. I feel bad. That doesn't feel like center self. That's
Mm.
filled with love and light and joy. So I want to just explore what's going on with me, what's going on in my body, what is needing my attention and love right now.
Can I ask you what to define center self?
Yeah, so there's lots of different ways that people talk about center self. Some people might call it like capital S self.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so it's your healing. Every single one of us are born with a capital S self, a center self. Often what happens is through socialization, through learning, external learning, because we all want love and connection. At the core of human needs is love and connection. There's a plane. Is that very loud? I apologize.
It's being filtered out. Can't hear it.
Okay, perfect.
Or your dogs. Yep. There's no
Okay.
background noise at all.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Um, we can be taught to move away from that center self because, again, like I was saying, everybody wants love and connection. And so when we're born, and sometimes love and connection, it can be a little conditional or whatever dynamic is going on within your developmental framework, sometimes that center self, it gets pushed off and these parts show up, and it's very protective. These parts show up to say, well, we can't be ourselves because that person gets mad at us every time we are ourselves. So a little self disclosure, I am often not a timely person. I just tend to not be prompt. It's not who I am. For a very long time, I felt so much shame about that. I have a very prompt family, and I did not match them. I did not match. Everybody was on time for every birthday party or every event, and there's Chelsea coming through the door 5 to 10 minutes late every time, and there's jokes and right, whatever. And before there was attunement with myself, there was shame about that. There was, I need to speed, or I need to have all these excuses why, and explain myself, or why can't I be better at these things? Really negative feelings that come from that. Right? But my center self is somebody who goes with the flow. My truth is not to be bound by time. That's just me. That's Chelsea. In my essence, I've been born this way. And so part of embracing that part of me is to move out of abandoning it and working with it, right? So I will tell myself it's at 1 o'clock if it's at 1:30, to work that a little bit, right? To help myself to feel more comfortable in just who I am while also wanting to meet these expectations that I value, right?
Mhm. That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah. So center self, we're all born with that piece of, it's our essence of who we are. Um, yes, embracing the shadow dissolves internal conflict and creates space for clarity and compassion. Because as I said, when we are not accepting ourselves, we're arguing with ourselves. Like I was showing my example about timeliness. I am negatively talking to me, and why can I be better? And then I have a bellyache, right? Or the somatic, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, all getting hit at one time. And then I don't have compassion. I'm judging myself. I feel frustrated with all these different things. Yeah. So the shadow holds unmet needs, exiled parts, and deeper wisdom. I already said that. Self love is a felt experience, not a buzzword. You move into you move into self-love through presence, breath, and permissions. We are such a quick society. We often have expectations to respond, to move forward, to just do what we have to do, rather than giving ourselves permission for attunement. Well, I just have to. She called me. I have to call her back. Or We say this a lot. I have to. I should. I really should. Well, she's my mother, or well, they're my best friend, or I'm supposed to. But self love is really about giving yourself permission to slow down your responses, right? And to just be with yourself. This could be milliseconds. This doesn't have to be, because often too, when I talk about this, sometimes people will catastrophize it, make it a little bigger, and they're like, I can't do 10 minutes of attunement, Chelsea, every single time. You don't have to. That's not what I'm talking about. Sometimes that would be beautiful. A full 10-minute attunement practice. Yes. But there are these moments where it's like you get a text message and you might pick your phone right up and respond without having the permission. Wait a minute. Do I want to respond? Just a
Mm,
split second, giving yourself up to 5 seconds of a mini attunement before we respond. And breathing, a diaphragmatic breath. When we invite breath work, we are actually supporting attunement. We are actually supporting what we're talking about with getting back into that ventral state, getting away from the somatic reactivities in our bodies. Because again, often the nervous system is reacting. And the nervous system is reacting, it's actually affecting your breathing. It's tightening up everything. It hits your stomach, it hits your lungs. There's so many places, because when we need to survive, we don't need to worry about breathing as effectively. We don't need to worry about digestion. We just need to go forward and survive. And so breath work actually supports attunement. And when we do a breath, really working the diaphragm, bringing that breath into our belly, literally sends relaxation messages to our mind. When your stimuli is a little too intense, I would definitely suggest up to 3 to 5 times of a nice deep belly breath. Sometimes when the stimuli isn't that much, one belly breath is enough to bring it back down and then support attunement. Because the other thing with attunement is, how do we even think about this when we may be having panicked feelings, or we may be really heightened? We're just on social media and then we stumble upon horrible things that we never asked to see as we're scrolling, and we
mhm.
can't breathe, and we're feeling tight in our chest and all of these things are happening. It can be really hard to do attunement right then and there. Right? And so
Yep.
sometimes it's just bringing in breath where we can get clarity, and then we can invite attunement if that's what we need in that moment.
Mhm.
So I'll just pose this question for you to reflect on. What would change if you believed your truth was safe to live from?
Ooh,
Mm.
this is just is do you want me to answer or is it just a hypothetical?
If you want to, you can, but it is just a reflection question.
Okay.
There's a lot of energy right now. There's a
Hmm.
lot of energy, and sometimes that energy is not our own. Sometimes, as I said, we're scrolling through things, or even there's a collective energy that's going on that can feel in pain, sadness, whatever it may be. Attunement can be a way to realize that it's not yours, that what is going on in your body, in your mind, in your feelings, in your spirit may actually be from a more collective energetic space and not really coming from yourself. And
Mm.
so self attunement can be a beautiful tool to recognize this, and then to invite tools in to then separate some of that. We can get oversaturated with all of it for sure. Yeah. True alignment is found within ourselves through coming back into relationship with ourselves. And I just want to run through, if this feels good, a alignment ritual. You do that? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So we're just going to take a moment to return to center, to the place within that always knows. And start with settling into the body. Gently allow your eyes to close or soften your gaze. Bring your attention to your body, where it rests, how it feels. Notice where your breath meets your heart. Let's take 3 slow, intentional breaths together. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Now bring your awareness to the center of your being. You may feel it in your chest, your belly, or simply know that it's there. Quietly ask, what part of me needs love right now? What part of me is ready to be seen? You don't need to fix or figure anything out. We're just listening. Place a hand on your heart or another part of your body that wants to be held. You might whisper to yourself, I am here. I am listening. I choose to stay with me. As we close, take one final breath in and exhale. Trust that even after this call ends, your center is still here, ready when you are. Thank you for tuning in, for softening, for meeting yourself. The return home begins with a breath.
Mm,
When you feel ready, you can join back, open your eyes.
it was beautiful.
Yeah.
That was very nice.
Mm. Thank you so much. This is really
Mm.
good. I love talking about tuning in. Can you tell? Yeah. Mm.
It's really good to be able to take the time to really settle in, tune
Yeah.
in, but really feel the connection to your body, where you're holding things in your body.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's just so much wisdom there, and we tend to shut it off. I
Yeah.
remember, gosh, many years ago, when I was doing a lot of work like this, tuning into my body. I used to call it focusing. And
Mm.
I remember one time I needed to go into like a conference room. It wasn't in a business location, but this particular room looked like a conference room. And somebody said something to me right as I was getting to walk in, going to walk in the room, and I opened the door, and it was like my body just didn't want to go through. I was really
Mm.
feeling this complete reaction in my body to what that person had just said, and I didn't want to go forward into this room to have an open discussion because I felt like I needed to turn around and go back to that conversation and
Yeah.
find resolution with it before I could go forward through the door to have an open conversation with everyone. So it's so those kind of memories for me are so important to help me find that back again because of my brain injury. There was a little bit of a disconnect for years, and some of those neural pathways are still kind of reconnecting. So those memories of having that kind of awareness of my body are really helpful for me in terms of finding the path back.
Yeah. And our society really celebrates ignoring our body.
Yeah.
We unfortunately celebrate mm, like people that push themselves further than, yeah, we will glorify some of these things. I mean, when you think about daycare and you think about children who are starting school, there's so
Mm.
many messages right from that start where we are taught to not listen to our body.
Right.
Right. So we have kiddos who might not like saying, no, I don't like this. And then we'll say, we have to eat it. Or we'll have a kiddo who's maybe playing on the playground with a toy, and another kiddo walks up and grabs the toy, and this one hits. His body or her body told her to hit, but
Mhm.
hitting's bad, right? And so we don't often know as a culture how to teach honoring the messages, honoring the fact that you want to go hit that child. And that makes sense, right?
Mhm.
Yes, we want to stop the hitting. Yes, we want to protect the other kid from getting hit. We're not often seeing that the protection of the other child then is teaching disconnection from the body
Mhm.
and finding a way to do both where we can attune. That makes sense. You're angry and you want to hit, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I ask numerous times throughout the course of my work with children during the course of a week, where are you feeling that in your body? And I
And
just feel like those conversations are so important to help kids start on the right path forward in terms of honoring and listening and paying attention to where am I feeling that in my body?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then teaching what to do when we notice those things. Children are often, adults don't have as much. It's funny, we think that we have way more obligations, but in reality, children are stuck with have tos. They have to
Hmm.
start school at 8:50 or 8:30, and they have to ask permission to go to the bathroom. And in my life, I can go to the bathroom whenever I want to go to the bathroom. There's nobody
Hmm.
asking. I'm not asking permission, and I'm honoring my body at every moment that I need to honor my body. But
Hmm.
children aren't as free to do those things, and we have society's box. And so there are so many messages. And then there's children who experience overstimulation, and we have neon lights, and we have tons of computers everywhere, and we have all this noise, and little Susie Q is screaming at everybody, well, because she's overstimulated and her body is uncomfortable, and
Hmm.
we don't always know how to help that attunement with her body. And well, maybe Susie needs to take some deep breaths and have some water. Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is good. Thank you for this.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be doing this.
Mm.
I can get this message out to everybody. That's what I love.
Yeah, it's important stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Ava.
You're welcome. Does that kind of wind up what you wanted to share? Should we go into what you are offering for a gift
Yeah,
for everyone who comes to the call? Oops, I'm sorry
yeah.
about that background noise. I don't know if you heard that.
I
Um,
didn't.
okay. You have a little tuning into self mini experience. You want to tell people about that?
Yeah, so everyone that has registered for this call will get a link within Ava's email. It'll bring you to a about a 10 or 15-minute video where it will walk you through a guided meditation done by me. And then the other part of that gift is one person will receive a tarot pull because Ava did mention that I do tarot. And so I want to offer a free 15-minute tarot session for someone. And Ava, you suggested a really cute idea of me picking a
Mhm.
number.
Okay, so the original list that I saw before, I don't
Yeah.
have that original list up here. However, I do have a list, and I would like you to choose a number between 1 and 5.
Three.
Pearl. Pearl is, I won't give her email address here, but
Yeah.
Pearl is the person who will be receiving your tarot, your 3 card pull.
Awesome.
And I will send you Pearl's email address after the call. Okay.
Thank you. And I will just connect with her via email. That's wonderful.
All right. Beautiful. Is there anything that you would like to share with us as we are winding down our call tonight? Any words of wisdom or any closing thoughts you might have?
Yeah. Mostly I want to support anyone that is listening to this as you begin, I really invite you to start this attunement process and really support that compassion. There are no expectations around this. This is just make this fun. Work towards a relationship with yourself. Create we do these dating apps or we do these things where we'll promote ourselves, but we don't do that with ourselves. And so this could be a fun game to just play. Bring in just compassion, curiosity, not pressure, and explore what does attunement feel like? Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Play is so important. Play is it's one of the best things that we can it's a gift to ourselves when we play. So be playful. Play with
And,
this. See what it's
mhm.
like.
And that's when I start experiencing joy, is when I'm playing.
Yes.
Really feeling into that. It feels
Yeah.
joyful and fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
That's
there's no have to. There's no shoulds.
right.
We're here
Yeah.
to have fun and enjoy.
Mm. Well, thank you. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
And if there are any questions, anyone on the call, if you have a question, you're welcome to put it in the chat. Oh, Chelsea, while I'm seeing if there are any questions, why don't you tell people how they can find you, reach you, contact you?
Yes. So I am on social media. I have Instagram and Facebook. Facebook is Soul Sign Synergy. And on Instagram, I'm complex_healer. And I often post a lot of videos about tuning in and all of these different things. I love to teach what I'm talking about and sharing different ways to support somatic healing through dance and exploration. I also have a website. Isn't it silly that I don't know exactly what my website is? Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, acceptance of self. Oh, yes. Okay. lightworkintuitivehealing.com/consultation.
Beautiful.
Yes.
And so if people do want to have a consultation with you, they can just go there and click on a link and get connected with you immediately.
Exactly. On my website, my email, there's links where you can book and it will pop up an email that you can send right to me. But people are also welcome to send me a direct message through Instagram or through Facebook. That is absolutely appropriate. I can also include my email if that's wanted.
Yeah, I think what I would like to do in the follow-up email that I send out to people with the link to the recording of this call, let's put all of your contact information in there.
Great, I love
Okay,
that.
so if you could
Thank
send that
you.
to me with the link that you were going to send me,
You
then
got it.
we'll make sure everybody has a way to reach out to you that works for them. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here
Of course.
and and thank our listeners for tuning in.
Thank you so much.
Unintended.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for being here. And I don't see any questions in the chat. So let's sign off for now.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome, my friend.
Bye.
Bye bye.